Hey everyone, are you interested in heart rate variability and how it can enhance your life, reduce stress, and improve your overall health? Well, join me because in this video, we'll develop a deeper understanding of heart rate variability and I'll teach you how to measure and manage it. So let's get into it. So what is heart rate variability? Well, essentially heart rate variability is a phenomenon that when you're not stressed, your heart rate is deeply variable. And that's because when you breathe in, your body's full of oxygen and your heart speeds up. And when you're breathing out, your heart rate slows down. So when you're in de-stress mode, your heart rate is highly variable, i.e. speeds up and slows down a lot. Conversely, when you're stressed, your heart rate is very constant, and that's because your body doesn't slow down and speed up depending on how much oxygen's in your lungs. It maintains this kind of constant level. And that's when your body's stressed, so it's in your kind of fight or flight mode. And because it's a function of your heart rate, lots of wearables and trackables have kind of picked up on this recently. So I've got this Garmin Forerunner 55, I think. It's the absolute cheapest watch Garmin do. I think it was £135, but this tracks my stress and it also tracks my body battery, which is a function of stress. So heart rate variability is actually a really interesting measure that you can use to track how stressed you are on a daily basis and manage that accordingly. Another brand that became famous recently tracking heart rate variability is Whoop. They have a subscription-based model. They can track your heart rate variability using that. And what these companies do and what Garmin does with their body battery is they take the measurements of how long you're in stress mode versus unstressed mode or de-stress mode or recovery mode. Let's say they calculate your body battery. So if you've had plenty of time in de-stress mode, you've had plenty of time to recover, your body battery will be fully charged, whereas if you spent too much time in stress mode, then you wouldn't have recovered and your body battery would be very low. So that's quite a quick kind of whistle-stop tour of HRV and body battery and stress and de-stress. I had a Garmin before this. I had the Fenix 5, so a slightly fancier model. I haven't been interested in the stress measure or heart rate variability until I read the book The Pulse Cure by a Norwegian doctor called Torkil Farrow. And he basically described exactly what I just described about heart rate variability, how it basically tells you whether you're in stress mode or de-stress mode and the benefits of knowing that and also kind of optimizing your life around that. So in this video, I'm going to go through 7 ways you can manage your heart rate variability, i.e. you can put yourself in either stress mode or de-stress mode and the benefits of doing that. So let's get into it. So the first thing that affects your heart rate variability or stress and de-stress is sleep. And that's kind of very intuitive because your sleep is your ultimate rest and recovery. You're not stressed at all when you're sleeping. So obviously sleep affects it in a huge way. I've generally found that if you have a good amount of sleep, then obviously you're in a kind of deep rest, de-stress mode for a decent chunk of 24 hours. And that causes your overall stress level to come down. And I've also found that if you have a good quality sleep, your stress reading when you're asleep is slightly lower. So that brings down your overall stress level for your day. So that's just another reason why it's so fundamentally important that you get really good sleep, and that can bring down your daily average by quite a considerable amount. So the second thing that really affects your heart rate variability or your stress levels is stress itself. So I mentioned I didn't really pay attention to my stress score on my Garmin previously, and that's because basically when I was asleep, it was not stressed. And when I was awake, it was stressed. And that's because your day is generally stressful. And actually, that's one of the common problems that people have with our daily life that we've created for ourselves with constant instant messaging, emails, work. Everyone's constantly in that kind of stressed state throughout the day until they go to sleep, or perhaps until they relax until the evening. The argument is that some of this stress is good. We evolved to have stress in our life. It enables us to do the things we want to do. But the problems start occurring is when we have too much stress, i.e. chronic stress, and we're never able to go into that de-stress mode. So for example, you might have a very stressful job where you have no downtime, you're constantly on your feet, you're moving around, there's no break, and also you're not sleeping well. Then you'll probably go into that kind of overly stressed mode. That can lead to a number of illnesses and eventually lead you to burnout, but it also causes inflammation in the body where it starts to kind of attack itself. So it's definitely something you want to avoid. And I can definitely see that when I get involved in a stressful project at work or something, my stress levels definitely pick up. Ultimately, that's a good thing because it's pushing you outside of your comfort zone. I think the Greeks called it like eustress or something, where it's like a positive stressor. But I can definitely see that how that changes my heart rate variability throughout the day. I think one takeaway from this is I'm going to try and put more kind of rest periods throughout my day to try and bring my overall stress levels down. So noting that it's fine to be stressed for a bit, but it's important that you have that recovery as well. And it doesn't have to be just sleeping at night. You can try and work in recovery during the day. So the third thing that really affects your HRV, i.e. your stress, is exercise and movement. So the Garmin watches don't actually track your HRV while you're moving because they're just like, it's inherently stressful, so there's no point. So you might ask, well, why does everyone say that exercise and movement's good for us if it creates stress? Well, I highlighted in the previous point, it's positive stress. It's stress that's good for you. Your body was designed to move. Your body was designed to be stressed in this way. The interesting adaptation that comes from stressing your body like this is that if you put your body through some movement and exercise that's typically higher than any other stress you would achieve through the day, your body adapts to that higher level of stress. So it gets a bigger kind of stress threshold. Essentially, your stress muscle, let's say, gets stronger. So if you shock it much higher using some high intensity exercise, you start doing some hill sprints and you get into a higher heart rate zone, you've got heavy breathing, you're sweating. You basically put your body through a lot more stress than it would normally go through in a normal day. So what that means is it just recalibrates your body's kind of reaction to stress. So it says kind of, oh, you put me through that, crazy thing this morning. So these kind of emails and notifications and things, they're nothing compared to that. So it basically completely recalibrates your body's stress response, which means that your overall stress levels can be lower because it's less reactive to the kind of majority of the stresses that come through during the day. So that's one of the reasons why exercise is really good for you. And although it gives you a lot of stress straight away, it basically brings down your baseline over time. And this is another great reason to do exercise first thing in the morning when you wake up, like I've mentioned before, is it sets that kind of bar high for stress, and then your body kind of reacts to the stresses throughout the rest of the day in a much less aggressive way. So by pushing it high in the morning, your overall baseline through the rest of the day is much lower. So the fourth thing that really affects your HRV and stress is active rest. And so instead of pushing on the stress side here, we're talking about pushing on the rest side, i.e. the de-stress, the recovery. And there's definitely ways you can improve your recovery throughout the day, i.e. active rest. There's a really good book called The Art of Rest by Claudia Hammond, and she talks about the top 10 things you can do to de-stress and their effectiveness. And the top 3 are just sitting alone, being in nature, and reading. So I thought I'd give those a go. And I can tell that reading puts me straight in my kind of, active rest, de-stress, HRV zone. Yeah, other things are supposed to be relaxing, like watching TV, don't actually get me there. So it must be something to do with the kind of all-consuming nature of reading a book. Now I know that, factoring that more into my life and more into my day, actually, so I can get more active rest. I even compared it to like some Wim Hof kind of relaxation breathing, and it might be because I'm not that good at relaxation breathing yet, but I definitely found that reading just puts me directly into HRV recovery zone. So I'm definitely going to be factoring that more into my day-to-day. So the fifth thing that really affects your HRV and overall stress level is your meals and diet. I've definitely found that when I have my treat day or my cheat day from my diet, which is a slow carb diet and anti-ultra processed diet, which I mentioned on a different video, I find that my heart rate variability goes sky high. And it's definitely corroborated in this Pulse Cure book that ultra-processed foods cause inflammation and so cause a kind of stress response from your body, and also processed carbs. And it's because we didn't really evolve to have this kind of food. So your body has a real stress response to it, and it causes increased inflammation and puts you in that stress mode. So I've noticed my heart rate variability, even if I didn't drink any alcohol, goes straight up to like 50 from 30, 25. I'm even now thinking, do I really need this treat day, or am I going to do this treat day slightly differently? Because I notice myself getting stressed and more irritable as a function of this food. So the sixth thing is alcohol. And alcohol, when you start tracking this, you realize that alcohol is basically liquid stress. Lots of people have alcohol to kind of relax, or they think it's causing them to relax, but it's actually, because it's a poison, stimulating a stress response in the body. And you can just see that immediately through your HRV numbers, or definitely your body battery. So my body battery is at all-time lows when I've had a drink or a few too many drinks the night before. And just by measuring that, that's caused me to completely cut down on my alcohol consumption. And similarly, a lot of people that use the Whoop band have realized how bad alcohol affects their recovery levels and have since cut that down. So alcohol is just another reason not to drink alcohol, or just at least limit it day to day. The other thing I found with alcohol is it really disrupts your sleep, and that comes through quite aggressively in the body battery. So you typically don't recover at all during the night. Your kind of stress levels are elevated while you're asleep. It's a shame, but it's true. And then the seventh thing that changes your heart rate variability and changes your stress levels is ice baths. Now, ice baths have been everywhere recently, and I think lots of people can attest to the kind of benefits that cold water swimming has, but it's specifically measurable with your heart rate rate variability. So similar to exercise, getting into an ice bath creates an enormous shock to the system, puts you in that stress mode, because it causes your body to kind of recalibrate how it approaches to stresses. Oh, we've done this crazy ice bath in the morning and that caused me to be really stressed. So again, these emails, notifications, whatever comes out through the day is actually not that bad in comparison. And this is covered in a lot of detail in Mark Harper's book, Chill, where he talks about the benefits of cold water swimming, and he's also a doctor. So there we have it. That's a bit of a background about heart rate variability, how you can measure it, and some practical things you can do to change it. From running through those 7 things, I've realized that some of the things I do already benefit from this, and now it's just kind of great that I can measure it and track it in real time and kind of optimize as a result. Some key takeaways for me are ice baths in the morning, which I've been doing for over 300 days now. Exercise in the morning, again, so both of those just to spike your kind of stress response in the morning, so your overall stress levels throughout the day are lower. Reduce ultra processed food and refined carbs, which I've mentioned before. Reduce alcohol, get good sleep. It's all common knowledge, but I just think it's fantastic that you can now track it and optimize for it. Oh, and read more, because that puts me in parasympathetic mode and the flow state. Find your flow. Find what floats your boat. It might be something else for you. For me, it's reading. Super interesting and fun thing to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to hear more from me, don't forget to check out this one here.